Good evening. My name is Kaylee Minarski, and the article that I chose for this presentation is Emotion and Executive Functioning, the Effect of Normal Mood States on Fluency Tasks. So first we're going to go over an overview of what this study and experiment kind of did. So the study in my chosen article focused on comparing everyday mood states to executive functions. The average age for participants in the study were around 51 years old. Although they started at 18 and I believe they went up to like 79. This was the average age of who participated. Studies in the past have shown different sides of the brain. So for example, the right side of the brain mostly during positive moods and the left side mostly working during negative mood states, which is kind of what this research was based around initially. So because of this, previous research has found that the frontal circuit of the brain has been correlated to executive functions. In order to better understand this, we need to know the definition of an executive function. So for this article, and I think in general, executive functions are labeled as self-learning, self-monitoring, and the ability to self-correct. So almost like self-control. These tasks are often evaluated through the use of verbal language or visual presentation. So the research method for this article, all of the participants that participated must have met the inclusion criteria of the study. And the inclusion criteria was they must have been in good health, had the ability to travel to the university campus, they must have been English speaking, and would be able to participate in computer testing. Obviously, this last portion is super important because the whole part of the test was done on the computer. The hypothesis that they followed for the study was we hypothesize associations between mood and performance on fluency tests. Greater positive effect will be positively and significantly associated with verbal fluency performance, whereas negative effect will be positively and significantly associated with design fluency. We do not expect significant associations between positive effect and design fluency or negative effect and verbal fluency performance. This quote was taken directly from the authors of the study, so Carvello and Reddy. And the variables within the study, so there was four variables, 2 independent and 2 dependent. The first set of independent variables would be that the higher verbal fluency performance, and the dependent variable would be the higher positive affect. The second set was the design fluency, and the dependent variable for that would be the negative affect. So the way I determined this was if the higher verbal fluency performance, or if the verbal fluency performance was higher, you would then have higher positive affect. So the dependent variable was dependent on the independent variable. In the second set, if you had design fluency, then you were likely to have negative affect. In the research, they didn't specifically study higher design fluency or negative. It just said if you had design fluency, you'd have a negative affect. So the design of the study, so those that participated in the study were presented with 60 total emotions on a computer screen, 30 different positive emotions that ranged from excited, happy, elated, confident, and 30 negative, sad, angry, upset, frustrated. The participant was given the choice of ranging having felt each emotion on 2 different instances. So they were given each emotion and they would say, have you felt this today? Or have you felt this in general? And they had to choose how often they felt each emotion for those 2 different instances. The fluency and design tests were given separately away from the computer tests, and however the participants were divided up. So the results of this experiment show that there was indeed a higher correlation with higher verbal fluency performance and a more positive affect. However, the results did not show that there was a big difference in design fluency and negative affect. And the first part of the results are consistent with the additional research that has been done and helps reiterate the important hemispheres of the brain, like that I mentioned earlier with the left and the right. So strengths and weaknesses of the study. Strengths was the multiple emotions. They had an array to choose between 60 different emotions essentially. And they didn't just choose happy and sad because those are really kind of dependent on the person. So they had confident or they had elated. And then they had frustrated or sad, and each person was able to differentiate between the different positive and negative emotions and choose that. And another strength was the ability to choose 2 different options of when they felt that. So they're able to choose that when they felt it today and in general, not just chosen to one time frame. And the weakness was the sample size and the sample population. So suggestions would be improve the sample size and expand the population, therefore the results are more generalizable. It was really only to Massachusetts residents. in a certain area. So if they were to maybe open up to the East Coast and then eventually somehow manage it to all of the United States, or expand that inclusion criteria, they would be able to expand their population and their sample size, and then the results would be more generalizable. And my reference is just the study that I used. Thank you for listening.